Well, welcome back to Conversations of Legends. Today's conversation is one I've really been looking forward to. Now, I've known Stephanie Vitacco for probably for over 30 years now. And what I really loved back in the 1995 era of real estate and her career, I was on the front row seat to see how she's done her business. And I call it the right way. And I'm talking about, showing up, putting in the work and staying consistent throughout every market cycle. And Stephanie, we've been through a few of those.
Yes, we
But
have.
one thing I love about it is you've consistently, year after year, been one of the top agents, not only for Los Angeles, but for California as well. Again, you're in the most competitive markets out there, and people don't understand. They think, oh, New York is. No, I'm sorry, LA is competitive. Okay. Stephanie came into real estate after starting her professional life in a completely different industry, which we'll talk about today. And what stood out for me was your discipline. Like I used to tell my friends, if I always knew one person who was going to be working no matter what till midnight, that was you. Okay. I go, she would have all her paper laid out and just doing her job. Just, I don't care. I'm getting it done. Right. So you always work at a high level. And so today we're going to talk about your journey, all about the rejections, the consistency, the standards, and what really takes time and talk about your life business decisions. This is an opportunity to grow with one of the best. And here you go. Hello, Stephanie.
Well, it's good to be here.
So look at, let's jump right into it, okay? So let's start with where you began, what built the foundation of your success, all right? So you had what I call a really extraordinary career. But before the numbers, what did your professional life teach you and about your disciplines and standards?
So I think one of my innate traits, I don't know if it would be a quality, it can be, it is probably my best trait and then my worst trait is I will obsess about something and my discipline, I'm pretty laser focused when I want something. And it's great if it's a good thing, if it's, but it can also, it can make me a little nutty sometimes. But I'm just disciplined by nature. That's just kind of who I am.
So, discipline obviously is a big strategy, I should say, or structure of how you run your days, right? So people don't understand discipline today because they're all over the place, right? They don't know which
Oh,
way
it's
to
hard.
go. They
Yeah.
got, oh, AI now. Oh my God. I'm going to spend time there and not be disciplined to what actually builds my business every day. But let's go back to you stepped in real estate in the 1990s, which I think, was the most craziest time in real estate. So let me ask you, what did you think the business was going to be, and what did you quickly realize it actually was?
So I really didn't have any idea what to expect. I just knew that I thought I would just give it a whirl, right? I was in the fashion industry before that from 17 to my early 20s, and I was done with that. And there was a guy who was doing well in real estate, and I thought, well, what am I going to do? I'll go back to school, and at the same time, I'll get my real estate license. And when I got my real estate license, and I just really sort of gave it a whirl, and I was hooked. I mean, I could see that this would be a path that if I worked hard and was disciplined, that the success was up to me. It wasn't a social climb. It wasn't a corporate political where you have to be savvy politically within a corporation and how to play a game of Survivor. I've always said if I was on Survivor, I would be voted off the island first. I'm not good at that. That's not my skill set. So um, when I jumped in and started, I signed up with the company and just thought I'm going to see what this is about. Um, I remember looking at the board at the back because they would keep all the sales on the board. And there were three guys, and they were consistently putting deals up. So I would walk in the back of the office and I'd be like, oh, wow, okay, that's what I need to do. And I did it. In my like third month, I think I put up three or four sales. And I remember everybody was so freaked out, like, wow, how'd you do that? And I remember the broker came over to me and said, that's really amazing. And I said, why? That's what the other guys are doing. Why is that so amazing? I just thought that's what you were supposed to do. And you just follow the breadcrumbs. How are they doing it? I guess I'll do those same things. Now, by no means was it easy,
Right.
but I just listened to what they were doing. And in fact, these poor guys, they're they were pretty big names back then, and some of them still around. But in the office, whenever they made the mistake of saying, if you have questions, just come ask, and so I did. And it
Right.
would get to the point where I would like all the time, and I would walk over to them, and they'd like pick up their phone because I was a pain in the neck. I was distracting because I was just sucking the information because I didn't have any other way to get the information.
So let's go to that. So when you got into real estate, you coming from a different industry, you say, fashion. You don't really want to say what you did, but you were in fashion. And I think it's funny. But the idea
But
of
it
it
was
is,
nothing nefarious. You make it sound like it was something bad.
but were you coming into real estate to be part of real estate or to keep your other industry going? Because,
Oh
a
no.
lot of people do that and they go, well, I'll do real estate because I can get some money here and still do this.
No, so I was in the world of modeling, and I wasn't tall enough, and there were girls who were far prettier, all of that. So I realized I wasn't going to have the success that I wanted. And I remember when I was working overseas, and I did okay. I was working overseas, and there was a girl, and she was packing. We shared apartments. They would put us in shared apartments, and she was packing up her stuff. And I said, what are you doing? And she said, I'm leaving. They're sending me home. And I said, why? She goes, I'm too old. I just turned 24. And I remember, I was 21. I remember thinking, oh, blink. I don't want to be old like you and washed up. So I better get control of this and find something else. So that's when that uh, you would go there for a period of months. So, and you would work and do commercials and print work or whatever work you could get. So when that, what do you call it, that contract was up, I came back. And that's when I thought, okay, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get my real estate license because I did not want to be old like her at 24 and just drifting. So then I got my real estate license.
Okay, so that's great. So you shifted in there, right? And it's funny because you said, "Well, I got my three deals." So that's funny because you actually listened to other people. You kind of took your own thoughts because not remember all these top people sometimes don't tell you everything that you know. So you had to kind of file through the process of what's good, what's not good, right? So early on, what did you understand about this business that others really didn't?
I think it's just the basics, it's the basics, and it's you have to show up and you have to work a
Right,
lot,
right,
hard. And anyone who says otherwise is not being truthful.
right.
So I said, what do I do? They said, you sit open houses every weekend, you pick an area and you go knock on doors. I'm like, oh, that sounds miserable. But I did it. I did
Yeah.
it. I mean, I remember sitting in my car and I would wear a ponytail in the summer and I'd like pull myself out of the car by the ponytail because I didn't want to knock on people's doors because it was ingrained in me as a kid. My mother would like, oh, those pesky salespeople, and she'd slam the door. Now I'm that pesky salesperson, so I had this fixed thing about doing it, but I did it, and it worked.
It's funny to think that, right? Because you and I were in the same kind of periods, right? And going out there. And I never forget too, the first day of knocking on doors, three people slammed their doors on me. I'm like, well, this is not that great, you know? And I had to myself, you know what? I got to get this better. How am I doing it? How am I doing it? And it's funny because I door knocked another agent one day, right? And I never forget that. And this is when actually, my business was actually going very well. I was hitting, 10 deals a month and just running my deals. And I remember she goes, you door knock? I go, yeah. She goes,
Awesome.
and she looked at me, she goes, why? I go, well, part of my business is door knocking. It makes about 600,000 a year of that part. She's like, what? I go, yeah, see, I want to own this area. And the only way I can do it. And it's funny because that mentality is, why are you home? That's what
Yes.
my question was, why are you home when I'm door knocking? So, you and I have that same thing as work ethics, right? But
Yeah.
let's shift. You and I talked in a different way earlier about rejection. And rejection, in any sales and real estate, most of all, is part of the game,
It
right?
is.
So appointments don't get converted. Clients will say no. How did you handle rejection early on, and what helped you push through it?
I'm stubborn, probably, is what helped me push through it. But yeah, no, I mean, the rejection was brutal. I remember, going through, where you show somebody houses for 6 months and then they call you to say that they bought a house through somebody else. There's no crying in real estate. So although I
There
did go into
isn't.
the, I would go into, we had this conference room and it had, it was all, there were no windows, but except for the glass or where you went in. And I would remember I would go and I would sit in there and I'd have my back to the glass and I would just be, because, it
Yeah,
was hard. I'm like, all right, Stephanie, you can't cry. That's not gonna do you any good. So, I mean, yeah, I learned from every rejection, and still to this day, I think I learn from the rejection because there's still rejection. Thankfully, I fine-tuned my skills so that the
right.
rejection is minimal. Um, it's learning to read people. It's learning to ask the right questions, and it is being, I mean, it's being super fastidious and
Hmm.
quick. You have to be quick. I mean, as you know, when people call and they want to sell their house, you can't call them back a day later or 2 days later. They'll go on to, I mean, if it's your close, warm client, sure, but they're just gonna, if I don't answer the phone, they're calling you.
Right, right. And it's interesting, right? So go back to that. Let's shift right back. And again, because you said something, I had to actually tone my skills to be able to handle this. And most people don't understand what that even means because, we had certain mentors, right? But I think one of the things that we had part of our schedule was to practice to make better, not perfect, because there's never perfect, right? Everybody goes, practice makes you perfect. No, it makes you better for the next time you take the shot, right? And so for you, what was that looking like? I mean, you came from modeling. Did anything in that modeling help build that determination or resilience in you? Did some
Oh,
of that
talk
build?
about talk about rejection.
Exactly, right?
We're sorry, Stephanie. We hired the blonde. We're sorry, Stephanie. We hired the girl that has your look, but she's 3 inches taller. We're sorry. We're not even sorry, Stephanie.
That's right. So I mean, you were learned just I had a great mentor one time. He said to me, he goes, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" He goes, "Before you went to that appointment, what did you have?" I go, "No, nothing." He goes, "And you went to the appointment and you didn't get it. What did you have?" I go, "Nothing." He goes, "So you didn't go backwards, right?" He goes, "So the only thing you can do in an appointment is go forward, but now you own the process to make sure you do get it next time." And I think you said that. Like, so what are the things that you would hone in on in your skills? What are the things, go back to actually building those skills. Were they
So,
repetition? Was it mistakes? Was there something else? Or was it mentors? What was it for you?
so when I first got in, they gave me a mentor, and that mentor promptly left for Hawaii for 3 weeks. So I was like, now what do I do? So then I went to the guys in the office and said, "Can I ask you questions?" And they said yes, but they really didn't mean yes. Um, and somebody gave me, there was one guy, he was very nice, and he said, okay, he took a 3x5 card. I think I still have it. And he said, do these four things. Because I said, what am I supposed to do? And it was door knock, cold call, open house, and I don't know, something else. So I would focus on that. And then there was one pivotal moment because I didn't know how to go on a listing appointment. I didn't know how to do a presentation. They had presentation classes and things like that. But one day there was this guy and he came in and I would stay very late be in early, stay in late. Um, and he said, I need a ride to the airport. Can anybody give me a ride to the airport? And nobody else would. And I said, I'll give you a ride to the airport. Um, and he said, oh, great. What can I do for you? I said, let me go on a listing appointment with you because he was super successful. I want to see your presentation in
Right.
person because it is different, right, than a class. So
100%.
he let me go with him, and I learned a lot from it. So I absorbed wherever I could absorb. And I mean, there was really, at the time, it was you had to go to a seminar or, you know, find someone that was willing to show you the way, and then of course adapt it to your own
Yeah.
style
Yep.
because
Yep.
what worked for what worked for some other people. And if I said the names, you would go, "Oh yeah, I know." Like that was just not my style.
Right.
I'm more about providing strategy and providing information rather than like press hard the third paper, whatever they would say. They press hard so you can get onto the third copy or whatever that was. But yeah.
So, it's funny if you were to go back to those appointments and having the chance to listen, what two or three things still stick to today? Like what those things that made all of a sudden you went, click, this is going to be an appointment. Click, I'm going to read my room. Click, what was it for you?
Um, I mean, I think it's just the basics. People, they're going through such a huge transition, so you have to be able to understand why they're doing what they're doing and how you can help. I'm also very what is the word? I'm very canned in my presentation because I know all the things that they need to know. So I make sure that I hit all those points. Otherwise, they ping all over the place. So I really try I want to understand who they are.
Yeah.
I want to understand why they're doing what they're doing. And I'll tell people it doesn't make sense for you to sell. You should stay here because you're going to mess yourself up, or this is what's most likely going to happen. Um, and then to just go through the whole process with them so that I've covered everything that I know they need to know.
So, goes back to you now, right? And, you just said key words. I want to kind of repeat them because I get it in a huge way. You have a canned presentation. People go, "Oh my God, how can someone do that way?" And I'm the same way. I make my team do the presentation exactly the way we have it because it opens up rapport, it provides information, and it gives you the chance to close. It gives you the chance to handle the objections. It gives them a chance to connect with you. And you said that, and it's funny you said, I run through that process to learn more. And people don't understand if you're not in that space, you're just winging it every time. And I
You can't
always
wing it.
love going against a winging agent because what are you going to talk about, right?
It's true. It's
So,
true. And maybe the word canned isn't a good word, but it's like
well,
if you were to do a dance performance, you wouldn't just go out there and start dancing. You would have it choreographed.
right.
You would have your set things. Otherwise, you'd look like a fool.
But exactly, you know, and that's what you're practicing on to make sure you don't want to run off into the presentation.
It's choreographed. I like
Yeah,
that word better than
I
canned.
do too. That sounds great. So, you know what, Stephanie, you have sold over 7,000 homes, and people probably don't even get that concept in their brain. But more than any individual agent out there, what systems or behaviors that made you keep that volume sustainable? Because that's the key word, sustainability.
Yes. Um, it's a good question. I think there's several things. So, um, I have always been a big goal setter, and I mean, religiously in the beginning, I
Yeah.
would write down my goals, macro, micro, all of it, personal, business. I still do today, but a little more loosely. So I think having a goal and a plan is important. Otherwise, you do just kind of spin all over the place. Um, I think it's the discipline and the follow through. It's
Hmm.
just being consistent and not giving up, and constantly tweaking. Every time I would hit a wall, which is all the time, I would then figure, okay, how do I go over it? How do I go around it? How do I go under it? And when that didn't work, I find another way, find another. It was just relentless, being relentless.
Right, right. So, it's funny because people see you as you. They see your success, right? Everybody says, "Oh, wow, yeah, I know who she is. Oh, I've seen what she's done," right? But they don't know your structure. They don't know how hard you actually work, right, to build what you have today. So it's funny, they don't see how you started. They don't see the change of market where you had to adapt and pivot real quick. But so let's share with them a couple things about you, right? You have daily habits. I know that for a fact. You have priorities and routines, no matter what the market is. What are your non-negotiables to make sure not to interrupt your day?
Oh gosh.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a
But
lot.
you do have it. You have that.
I
That's your
do.
disciplines.
I do. I mean, I think so. Personally, I think it's important. I'm a much nicer person when I work out or go to the gym or keep that as part of my um, not daily. I don't do it every day, but if I can go 4 to 5 times a week, that's important, and it
Hmm.
keeps me centered and calm and nice.
Yeah.
um, the it's being. I mean, I start early. I go late. I make sure that the details that I know need to be managed are managed. So I'll literally sometimes when I have to focus on something, I'll take my phone and I'll put it in a drawer or I'll put it in the other room. So I'm not doing like, phone interrupting all the time with all of the texts as well. So it depends on what I'm working on, but it's there's not any one thing. It's
Right.
just staying consistent, staying on top of all of the clients that I'm working with
Right.
and being
Right.
attentive.
Right. You know, so let's give what's more important, your morning or afternoon routine?
Oh, more. I'm a morning person.
Okay.
I'm up 4:35, and that's quiet time. That's my time when I can sit and talk to my husband, or get little stuff that I need to get done before the day just
Right.
explodes. Get ahead
Right.
of my email. What did I miss? That kind of stuff. So the morning time for me is sacred. A
How do
workout.
you keep control of your schedule? How do you do that? I mean, because you're very busy. So you have to have some kind of ability to keep control. I know you have a team. I know you have all these other things, but for you personally, how do you keep control of that?
Um, what's control?
Okay, that's true. That's fair enough.
Uh, I mean, for me, it's the majority of my time is meeting with clients who want to sell their house.
Hmm.
So that's what fills up my calendar. That's what fills up my day. And I control my own calendar. Nobody else touches my calendar. I am a nut about that because I know how long it's going to take me to prep for an appointment,
Right.
to do an appointment, to be present for an appointment, and then when I'm done with the appointment, how long it could be before I go to the next appointment to have enough time to manage those other things that are not that are secondary. And yeah, I'm a good delegator, and I have a phenomenal team, and they do an amazing job. And I couldn't do what I do
Hmm.
without them. So it's um, it's 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 a whole orchestration, really.
Right. Well, it's funny. I remember the days of building teams when no one even knew what a team was, right? And everybody's like, "What are you doing?" And you're like, "Well, this is what I need." Yeah, I remember brokers looking at us like, "You want more room?" I got like six people here. I got to do something with them, right? And it was so
Yeah.
funny because the brokers were like, "What am I going to do with this person?" You know, and they couldn't. I remember the Fred Sands day for you, and all those days of like, what am I going to do with Stephanie?
Well, he literally, Fred said to me, bless his soul. He became such an important mentor and friend
Yeah,
in
he was
my
amazing.
life, and especially as a young agent. But I remember when I was a baby agent, and I was doing business, and I was in the back of the office, and they didn't give me. I had a cubicle, right? And I had so much business, I literally encroached into the hall, into the aisleway, and I'm notorious for sitting on the floor and working on the floor. So I just had all my files spread out. You're not going to give me more space. I just took it over the aisle. So people would like come and they'd walk down the aisle, they'd walk around all my. And Fred came into the office one day and he didn't know me. He just what's this girl doing on the floor? And he went to the manager and she said, "Oh, that's Stephanie. She's doing a whole lot of deals." And he said, "Well, give her space. Like the girl's making a mess. She's a fire hazard." So then they gave me more space.
Right.
And actually, my first assistant, I didn't hire. I was sitting on the floor as usual working, and this woman came up to me and she was twice my age. She was in her early 40s, and as I was on the floor, she had her hands on her hips and she looked down at me and she said, "You need my help." And she said she was going through a divorce and she was not in a mental space to do what you have to do as a salesperson, right? The
Right.
distractions of. And she said, let me help you. Just pay me hourly and I'll help you and you don't have to stay here till 1 in the morning. And I remember thinking, wow, well, how am I going to pay you? What if I don't do another deal? I mean, I'd only been in the business for, I don't know, maybe a year. And she said, you know what? let's do it for 90 days and see how it goes. And I was like, okay. I had no business background.
Right.
And
Right.
of course, that worked out beautifully. And then I didn't go home. I would stay till 1 in the morning, do more business,
I was
and
going
then
to say
another
that.
person and another. And we sort of built it like that. And to this day, she's out of the business, but I mean, she refers me clients. I've sold her properties for her.
I love it.
So
I love it.
that's how I built it. But Fred actually told me when I went to hire somebody who a guy came up to me in the office, an agent, and he said, um, "Why don't you just give me your extra buyers and I'll work them, right? Like a buyer's agent." But they weren't called buyer's agents then.
Right.
And so I said, "Okay." And then Fred's like, "Stephanie, you can't hire people under you. I'm the broker. You're not. You can't do that." So I was like, "Okay, I guess I got to do it another way." So that's why I built my team mostly administratively
Right.
versus a bunch of buyer's agents. It's just how I've done it.
Yeah, it was a big shock for a lot of brokers. I remember mine the same way. He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm building a team." Like,
Yeah.
well, what do you mean? I am. I'm the company. Like,
See, but you
yeah,
had the vision. I just was like, how do I not drown? Like, here,
right,
you do this, right? Because I knew what I was good at, and but the other stuff had to get done. So I kind of built it organically without even knowing I was building it.
So let's go back to your success. And I know I want to keep on going there, but I've really always been impressed with you. Okay. So I want to kind of, there's things that people, even at your level or trying to grow to your level, don't understand or are just stuck, right? Because I hear it. But you've been number one in sales, I would say about 176,000 agents out there in your volume of what you do. And that's huge, right? But what do you have to say no to? And that's,
Everything else,
yeah, I mean,
I
right? I
say no
mean,
to everything else. If someone calls to sell their house, I mean, it's a good problem, but within the
yeah.
past 2 weeks, I've probably been in 14 living rooms. So
Right,
so if you're going to do that, you have to say no to everything else. So
right,
on Super Bowl Sunday, well, a lot of people are out at Super Bowl parties. I listed 3 properties. So, but that's what I enjoy and that's what I do well. So you say no to a lot of
right.
everything.
And it's huge because people don't know, there's sacrifices made to be, they don't understand what you've gone through. So remember, you built this whole life and you're very modest in your world because I watch you and you're just like, I'm laughing like, okay, whatever, Stephanie, you are modest, but you're an amazing person. And this is why I was excited about this conversation because you're still put off to the modest side of you. It's like, I'll just say no. And the idea for you is a lot of people, and I'm not really labeling generations, but generations have been brought up differently. We've been brought
Of
up from
course.
parents who just said, hey, go do this, and I don't even talk to me, right? And then the next generation was like, what do I do? And the next generation is who will do it for me? you know? And so it was different. But
It's true.
if I was to go back and say, what was one operational decision you made years ago that still pays dividends today?
Oh, definitely staff, having people who support you, having good people that support you. Um,
Hmm.
that's the number one thing. You can't scale, you can't leverage. You get stuck in one deal and then it closes. So many agents do that. They get a deal, they hand carry it all through, which you need to do, but
Right,
they can't do anything else. And
right,
so you need someone who can help you with all of those details that are not the best use of your time.
right, right. And it's funny because you watch them, right? And they'll get a couple sales, then they'll have none. Then all of a sudden they get a couple sales when they close, then they have none. And it's funny because they go through that world and we're like, no, you just keep going. And
Yes,
so
yes.
when you say, okay, having a team is important, right? And I completely agree with you. Now, let's go there because I'm going to go there because you brought me there in that sense. Because we all make great decisions on people we bring in, we make bad decisions
Oh,
on people we bring in. So if you were to help someone today going, you know, I want to bring one person in or two people into my team, and I think I have the ability to sustain them because you have to have income to sustain people you bring in. What are the things that you did right in interviewing people, and what are the things that you wish you didn't do that you didn't hire because it didn't last?
oh boy, I think hiring is the hardest part because we're in a hurry, we need help, and it's like you really don't know how somebody's going to interface with you until they're actually because everybody puts on their best face during an interview. They're not going to tell you what they're bad at and all of that. I think that probably some of the best people that I've had work for me have come from referrals where other people said, "Hey, this person's really good." Because when you sit with somebody in an interview for an hour and then they come back for a second, and you're just getting you're getting their shiny, right? You're
Right.
just getting,
Of course. The first date.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You don't know how they squeeze the toothpaste. um, So yeah, I mean, I've been through some painful hiring and that didn't work out processes. And then also I've had to evolve incredibly as a as the employer, right? Because I'm the person that goes here, catch, right? I'm not that person who I just expect you to show up and I'll throw the ball and you catch it, which is not great. So my skill set is not managing people. Like that's just not training and managing. That's not what I'm good at. So hiring people that are good at
Right.
that
Right.
is what is important. Know your weaknesses, know your strength, and do it slowly. I mean, I think if today, so right now I have four full-time employees in the office. There, three of them are licensed, and one of them has a PhD. So they're all super smart and experienced in the industry. And then I have two virtual assistants. And
Nice.
I think if I was starting and I was broke, I would probably start with a virtual assistant
Right.
because then that is not a scary thing financially where you're committing to this huge salary or what have you. Um, or bring someone in and give them a percentage of the deal. Although I think that can be a slippery slope because division of work and then how that extrapolates when you do start to get really busy. But if you have to find a way to leverage your time. We sell our time. That's what we have.
Right. Right.
I'm not selling 1,000 of these or whatever. I'm selling my time. So it's valuable and I have to be very careful how I spend it and that I spend it in the way that's going to benefit my clients the most and that I have the structure behind me that supports all of the client needs.
So there's a huge thing you said, you know, and I always go by that too, hire slow, but get rid of fast because if you hire wrong, you've created disease in your business.
Oh, totally.
And that person really shines in the wrong way, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
unfortunately, we've all had that in our process of trying to grow our business. And I'm like you, I don't pay attention to every little detail until the details start bothering me. Then I pay attention
Yes.
again. So when you look at your standards, right, is there a standard you have when bringing someone to your team?
Um, it's interesting. Some of the best hires that I've had have been just smart people with no real estate experience.
Interesting.
The
Okay.
others have been like not always the like you think, oh, it's going to be great, I'm going to get this what I call a tired agent, right? Because the industry does beat a lot of people up and it's not for everybody, and that's not a bad thing. It just means they don't want to do this 24/7 dance, jumping into a stairwell when you're at a conference and taking a call because it's somebody who wants to sell, right? Or I mean, the day that I got married years ago, I remember I was negotiating a deal, and I was getting married on a Sunday, and they said, Saturday evening, they said, we want to sleep on this, and I said, okay, um, uh, I can call you in the morning, but I am getting married tomorrow. Um, so can I call you at like 7 a.m.? And they said, well, actually, we want to go over this with you in person. So I said, okay, here's the deal. I can show up at your house at 6:30 in the morning, but I am getting married, so I can only stay till 7:30. They said, okay. I showed up at their house at 6:30 in jeans and a t-shirt. I said, I'm coming in jeans and a t-shirt, by the way.
Right.
I showed up at their house in my jeans and a t-shirt, went over the contract, signed it off, went home, got ready, got married. You have to be
I
willing to
could,
do that kind
I
of
could
stuff.
just see your husband. I could just see.
He knew.
We're
He knew.
gonna. Hey, Stephanie, can you be there when we start? Could you just don't mind? I
Yeah.
know that your business is going good. Can you just be there at the wedding? I just want to make sure you're
Yeah.
going to show up.
I couldn't send somebody else, and they didn't care, and they shouldn't care. Their house was their most important asset,
Yeah.
and I didn't have somebody else I could send. They didn't want somebody else, and so That's
I
great.
could see him standing and the door's open for you to walk in. And he's like, is she on a listing appointment? Or is she
Why
going
is
to
she
show up?
late? Yeah. Yes.
No, but you are what I call the work ethics person, right? You have high work ethics, and that's just not normal in today's world. They think they do because they show up to an office, but they don't really work when they show up to the office. They kind of socialize. I remember when people go, God, you really don't talk to a lot of the agents. I go, well, because they're not going to buy from me.
Yeah.
So I got nothing to talk about.
And
I
you're
got to
busy.
find
You're busy doing things.
yeah, and so and one thing that impressed me is that you are very consistent in every market cycle. You pivoted a couple times, you know, you got into
Penny.
the REO business. You got into, you looked at it like, how do I get ahead of it before it starts? So what kind of mind do you need to have? Because did you ever have motivation fade from you?
No, I have fear of failure.
Okay,
I have money morphic disorder. I have I'm always like afraid I'm going to be broke or something.
that's
So
funny.
it's I have fear of failure. I don't want to fail. And so I will do whatever it takes to get nowhere near that because it's too painful to come back when you fall, right?
Wow. Yeah, that's
So,
true.
and I am very fortunate that I have absolutely wonderful parents, and my father had an amazing work ethic, and I do think I learned a lot from watching my parents, how how they raised me and my
Yeah.
sisters. That was very formative. But you have, even as you know, right? Like my parents had three kids, and we all went in different directions. So we all got different things, even though we
Right.
ate the same
Right.
cereal. We all got different things out of it. But for me, my father's extremely disciplined, and I am my father's daughter.
That's awesome. It's funny. We were lucky to be in those times, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I always tell my kids same thing. I go, look it, I had a lot of tough love when I was a kid. And it wasn't that it was putting to be tough. It was just love that was brought to me in a way that, hey, I had fear of money not being there because my parents, were in the age of time when they had the depression. So
Yeah,
they always ran like, you need to work, you need to do this, you need to be doing something. You can't, don't sit still.
right.
Keep moving. And it's funny because I hear you say that and I go, wow, there are things we took that never left us.
Yep.
And there's other things we had to go, okay, I don't want to be that.
Yes.
That's a little bit
Yes.
extreme for me. But it's funny because then we shift it to the next gen and going, okay, how will you receive this? Because we had no choice to receive what we received. It was like, you're getting it. It's there,
Yep.
right? And then we had to turn around and go, okay, how can I get you to receive this to understand that that's how I got it, you know?
Right.
And even when you go to your teams or you get younger people in your staff, you're like, okay, look it, I'm going to work with you on this way because I know that you weren't brought up the same way I was. And your expectations of yourself are different than mine. I have a huge
Different
expectation.
language,
Yeah,
different mindset,
right, right.
completely.
So talk about you. You've been through this. Talk about how did you stay focused? When the industry gets very loud, it gets very trendy,
I
AI,
don't listen.
or chaotic. It gets crazy, right? How do you use to stay focused in that process? Because your
So
team comes to you and they're all going to say, "Hey, oh, hey, hear this, hear that." What is your response to that? How you stay focused now?
la 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 la. I
Yeah,
don't listen. I don't listen. I don't pay attention. Um, it freaks me out. Like I couldn't grow up with social media today because I would be like in the corner disabled, just watching
right.
everything and thinking, oh my gosh, everybody's doing so wonderful and everybody's so successful and I'm not.
Yeah,
But I really don't pay attention. I'm I have an ability to laser focus. And again, it's my best quality and it's my worst quality depending on, like, if there's something bad that happens, I can't let go. I can't not focus on it.
right,
But
right.
on the flip side, I can't not go for whatever it is. And I will just, everything else, I just tune out. I really do. I don't pay attention. I mean, the joke in my house is my husband will like bring up a current event, and I'll be like, I'll come home one day, I'll be like, hey, did you hear such and such? And he's like, Stephanie, that happened 4 years ago. You know, because I'm like, I just learned about whatever pop culture is going
Right,
on or something.
right,
Because I really just don't. I
right.
just stay focused on what I'm doing, on my one thing, my one thing.
You know, it's funny. I try to tell my team if you can tune out to everything in the morning, just don't touch anything until the afternoon. Just if you can just do one habit of don't listen to anything, try to stay in a bubble, because we're doing business, stay in that bubble. Who cares what everybody else says,
Yes, yes.
and it's always out there. But for you, and you've said it a couple times today, and it's hard to do in your level of volume that you do, right? But you're very highly accessible, right? And you're very invested in every client you have. Look at, even getting married. So how do you balance the scale with genuine care with that?
So I mean I just care, right? Like
Right.
I care. I'm also as laser focused as I am. I'm actually very sensitive. So I'll give you an example. I listed a property this week, and the woman had passed away, and she was young. She was not much older than me. Turns out when I
Mm.
saw the death certificate, and she was never married, had no kids. And the trustee is a friend who lives out of the area. So he's basically like, look, here's the house, deal with it. The whole thing for this house was that her trust said that the house was not to be sold. She was a cat lady till her last cat had died.
Wow.
So it got to the point where the trust, it's been 2 years, the trust couldn't do it anymore. So he found homes for most of the cats, but there were two that were left. So I went ahead and I'm like, I got this. Okay. And I really I felt like I was the steward. I'm the steward of her possessions. I'm the steward of
Right.
her stuff because otherwise it's going to go into the landfill. The cat's going to go to the pound or get killed. That's not right. So I found through connections that I know a cat sanctuary where the woman's taking the cats, even so much as when the things we see in a house. When I approached the dining room table, there was these two big bins. And in these bins, there were all these brown boxes. And I'm like, oh, what's that? Oh, that's Jack. Oh, that's Cuddles. Oh my God. These are all of her cat's ashes for her lifetime
Oh
of
my
all the cats.
God.
Guess how many? Guess how many?
Scary. 20, 30.
37.
Oh my God.
So now what do I do with 37 cat ashes? So our meeting a couple weeks ago, we're like all Googling what do you do with cat ashes? I couldn't just dump these in the dumpster. So um, Google doesn't have an answer. Chat doesn't have an answer. So the cat sanctuary lady, I asked her, and she said, funny you should ask. I have this beautiful garden where we honor the dead cats. And she said, we'll sprinkle the ashes there. She took all
Oh,
37,
no way.
and
Oh
she
my
does an annual
gosh.
fundraiser where they honor and people who donate and their cats and just people who don't, just their dead cats. She took a picture of the woman. So it's things like that. I just care.
That's really cool.
I just
That's
care. I just hope that someday you treat others like you want to be treated. That's all.
right. So
Simple.
how do you then, so in relating to your success again, how do you attribute to relationship versus skill? Because there's two things that you always build. You build your relationships, but you also have built your skill system. So what is most
I think
attainable?
skill is the most important because
Yeah.
if you don't have the skill, you could be everybody's best friend, but if you don't have the skill, it's not going to happen. But I think that people can tell when you care and when you don't care. Like
Yeah.
I think they can say, okay, she's got the skill, and wow, she kind of really cares about this. So, and I do have a genuine interest in what they're doing
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
why. It's just my nature.
And isn't it funny today how we approach people different than years ago? Isn't it? It seems more fun in a sense that we have a whole different view because we can be very transparent in this process of talking to them and relating to them and saying, look at, like you just said earlier, maybe you shouldn't sell,
Yeah.
or maybe you should do this, or maybe you're thinking now this, or it's funny because don't you wish you had that same thing when you were 10 years in the business, 5 years in business, where we're just like every single nerve was coming through every single listing appointment, like, okay, another one. Okay, I want this one. Okay, I'm gonna get this one. And today you walk in, and you're like, it's gonna happen. It's a
Yes.
whole different,
It's,
how do you shift that? Because how do we tell everybody else, you know what? You just have to have that skill to be able to shift it right there.
so what's the book, The Tipping Point?
The tipping
When
point.
you've
Yeah.
done something
Yeah.
for 10,000 hours or whatever it is, right? You
Right.
just do it differently. It's back to dancing. When you first start dancing and you do a step, you're clumsy, you're awkward, you fall, you look like a fool, you can't do it. And then you practice, and then you practice, and then you practice. And
Right.
as you do better, before you know it, you're dancing.
Right.
So
Right.
I think it's the same. But yeah, it is much more fun now than
Yeah.
it was then. I mean, I remember I'm extremely nearsighted, uh, and I would I would wear contact lenses, but then I stopped wearing my contact lenses and I would wear my glasses because I could take my glasses off and not see the person across from me. So even though I was making eye contact, I wasn't, because that's always intimidating when you're
That's interesting.
staring at somebody who's 30 years older than you. They're selling their house. They're saying you look younger than my kids.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
take off my glasses. I couldn't see them.
Right.
Bump
That's
into the
funny.
wall on the way out.
And that's funny. So if you go back to, if you look at habits in your systems, what's the one thing that um, you outsourced even as your team expanded that made you grow? Like you had to outsource some things. What are the things that most important to outsource?
Oh gosh.
Because we're control freaks, remember, right? When we started this, I have to do it all. I have to do it all. I have to do it all. And that was the hardest thing for bringing on a team was like, I gotta stop doing it. Stop.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's making a list of things you don't need to do, right? Doing
Right.
the MLS input form, doing the uploading of the photos. Like you don't
Right.
need to do you don't
Yeah.
need to do the mechanical stuff that doesn't if it's not if it's not meeting with clients, negotiating offers, or addressing their concerns.
Right.
That when there's a problem, they don't. Somebody else can help.
Yeah.
Somebody else
Yeah.
can get it that far. Somebody else can walk them through the disclosure forms on Glide. Someone that I pay to do that, they'll help you, and they'll my one of the people on my team will sit there and go through all of the disclosures in great detail.
Right.
So, and as you know, you have to be aware of your client's personality, and some people want to know how the clock is made. Others just want to know what time it is. So you have to know which one you're dealing with, right?
Right.
And
Right.
you have to have systems in place to address that. So the client who does want to know how the clock is made, someone can sit on the phone with them or sit in the conference room with them for 2 hours to go over every single line of every single disclosure so that they feel okay.
That's so true.
Because they need to go through it in a manner that they're going to feel comfortable with. And other
No,
people are like, just show me where I sign.
so you're known for the detail orientation. You're detail oriented in you're deeply involved in your transactions,
Yes.
obviously. So why, to explain to everybody else why that's mattered so much when your business to grow, not less. Why does it matter more?
The details?
Yeah. Because people don't understand about details. You've seen offers come through. You're like,
Yes.
who
Oh
wrote
yeah.
this?
And I
Who
catch
wrote
it. I'm like,
who
what? You missed that.
yeah,
Yep. Yeah.
who wrote
Exactly.
this? You
Yes.
know,
Yes. Yes. I mean, again, I think a lot of it is from experience of seeing like, oh, I missed that detail.
hmm
Ouch. Um, and learning the. It's like if you play chess every day, all day.
yeah,
After you do it for so long, you see that, and it's a process. It's a learning. There's no easy way. There's no easy
yeah,
way to get there. You have to do the work, and you have to show up, and you have to make mistakes, and hopefully you catch your mistakes before they're actual mistakes.
right, right. We went through the last 5 years, right? It was really interesting markets we went through. People like you and I, when COVID hit, we weren't sure, but then all of a sudden we were busier than ever, right? And we just adapted real quick and we
Yes.
thought, okay, how do we keep running? How do we keep running? Let's just make this work and let's just keep going. And, for newer agents, this is important because let's talk about a new agent, right? And I call 5 years ago, you're still a new agent because obviously you really haven't seen it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly.
Yes. You haven't
Um,
seen a cycle.
no. And so, how do they misunderstand about longevity versus short-term success? Because that's
Um,
huge this last 5 years.
it is. So one thing that I did in the beginning was I had separate checking accounts, and every check that I closed, I would put a certain percentage away for taxes, I would put a certain percentage away to buy a property, and I would put a certain percentage away to run my business.
Hmm.
And it was literally in that order because I wanted to buy real estate. I had to pay taxes. And I remember seeing agents in April be like, oh my God, I owe this much in taxes. They just spent what they got, right? They'd get a check and there was no regulation. They just spent it. So I think that was real important
Yeah.
to keep those separate accounts. So I knew the taxes wasn't mine. And then there's the one for the house. And when it would get to a certain point, buy a house, buy a property. And then the rest was to run the business. So I had to figure out ways to run my business as efficiently as possible because I didn't have any money,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, and it was non-negotiable to borrow it from the tax money or the house money.
Right.
So you have to be structured in your and give it long enough. I mean, most agents are in and out of the business within 3 to 5 years, or because it is hard to get past the breakwater.
Right.
The amount of time, energy, effort, discipline that it takes to get past the breakwater is huge, and you have
Right.
to want it. And it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone.
It's so you're a new agent, right? And you have nobody, no contacts. What would you focus on first?
Door knock, open house, cold call. Those I don't know if you can cold call anymore. I think there's rules around that, but there's other systems.
Right. But it
But
doesn't
farming,
cost you anything.
farming works.
These are huge things that they don't understand. Doesn't cost them, but time.
Any listing, like if I do lose a listing, which I have a pretty high conversion rate, the ones that I have the hardest time with is when I'm going up against that local farmer who's good.
Right.
The
Right.
Steve and Christie that knocks on their door every 60 days.
Hmm.
That's a tough one. So if anybody is getting, you or I could go into any neighborhood,
Right.
farm it, knock it, and in a year and a half, we'd own it.
Right.
Anybody can do that. Anybody can do that. But you
Right.
have to be willing to pull your hair, get yourself out of the car, knock on the door, and do that, and then do the
Right.
follow up, right? Knock on the door, send the follow up note, send the follow up email, whatever the call, and mail and do it over and over and over again until you're there. I mean, you could go into any neighborhood and do that.
So what separates, let's go to that because that's kind of funny to think that because it's going back to the basics. That's the funny part,
Absolutely.
right? So what separates agents who have been around 30 plus years like ourselves, right, from the ones who have quietly disappeared?
God, maybe we're obsessive compulsive. I don't know. We're
You know,
addicted.
yeah, I think we just trust I think one thing that I see you just trust your instincts
Yes.
because our
Yep.
instincts and our intuition keeps us alive to what we know and we just don't wander off that process.
No,
But
stick to the basics.
and you got a lot higher standards than most people too. You can understand they don't understand for someone to get to a level like you if you don't have a bigger why, then it doesn't really matter. And it's funny because when you teach the why, and I'm going to hit you on this because you went
Uh,
there, okay?
uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm going to teach you
Okay.
on it. So when you hit the why, like you have to separate everything. And I love that you said like taxes are out of the way. I used to separate education for kids. I used to separate. So I just stuck it out because I didn't want money in my bank. The one bank that I was going to look at, that was my business banking. I didn't want to see if I saw too much money in there, which made me buy properties. It was like, oh, all right, I don't need that there. Get out of there because then I'm going to get complacent. I don't want to be complacent, you know? And I remember my friends going, all right, real estate friends going, why are you buying that home? I go, I need a rental. They're like, but it's not the market. I go, what is the market?
Yes.
I needed to diverse money somewhere else so I don't see it.
Right.
And so for
That's
you,
interesting.
what was your why? I mean, it was building up, equities for me.
So I think just getting to a point where, so again, for me, it was I grew up in a family that was rich in love, but not in money. So I wanted to have a financial stability. And so that I didn't create a company. I didn't create a product. So for me, this was going to be my way to be successful because I saw other people doing it, and I
Right.
saw the success that they had in real estate, not just in the sales, but in the accumulation of properties. And so for me, that's probably the why, to be able to have the freedom to not work 180 hours a week if I didn't want to.
I'm just going to go there. When you step back one day, right? You're going to step back. What do you hope your career represents beyond the numbers that you have done?
I mean, just people remember me as somebody who was ethical, honest, good reputation, good at what she did, that kind of a thing. I
Yeah,
think that's just it's your reputation because as you know, when people leave the planet, it fades fast, man. I mean,
yeah.
ask a younger generation who Audrey Hepburn is, and they probably wouldn't know, right?
That's
And I mean,
true.
that was the pinnacle of
Yeah,
success. So I mean, I'm just this what it's not going to matter. It's doing what I enjoy doing, um, uh, and doing it well. My dad told me when I was 10 years old, he said, Stephanie, pick one thing and do it well.
yeah.
Oh,
Great advice. That's great advice. So,
good man.
Stephanie, you realize this, you're an amazing leader, obviously, in this industry, and you've really helped a lot of other people along the way because that's who you are. But where do you go from here? What's your next pivot?
So I enjoy what I'm doing. So
Hmm.
it's
Is there no exit plan? Do you have a what's next for Stephanie or
so I don't have like a when I hit this age, I want to move to a tropical island. I don't have that.
right,
I enjoy it's like dancing. If you enjoy dancing, is there an end to that?
right.
I enjoy what I do. And when I don't anymore, then I'll do something else. But I remember again as a young agent, there was a guy who saw how quickly I was doing deals, and I don't think he liked it because bitter and twice my age, and he's like, you're gonna get burned out. You're gonna get burned out. You're gonna okay. And I never did. I haven't gotten burned out, but it's because I enjoy it. I enjoy what I do.
When you love what you do, you don't get burnt out.
So I don't have an exit plan. Could I stop tomorrow? Of course. Like,
Yeah,
do I need to do this? No, I'm very fortunate that 30 plus years has afforded me a level of success that I wanted to achieve.
yeah.
But I really enjoy what I do. So
That's great.
why work is only work if you'd rather be doing something else.
Right. So let's just hit some of your things. So what's the one thing you love doing then outside of work?
So I like two things. Um, uh, I so growing up, I wanted to take dance lessons, but we didn't have the funds, so I couldn't. So 2 years ago, I took up tap dancing, and that is so
Fun.
much fun. I had my first recital last June. I had my second recital this
I
June, and
love it.
I love it. It's so much fun. Complete distraction. You can't think of anything else while you're doing that. And the other thing is animals. I mean, the animals seem to find me.
Yeah,
The wayward dogs and cats, and sometimes horses and fish. I mean, I've rescued them
yeah,
all.
yeah.
As you know, people leave them behind in their houses, and I will find homes for them. So that would be something that I would contribute more time to if I stopped doing what I was doing.
Wow. Yeah, that's fun. You've always amazed me. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your journey and your perspective, which I think is amazing. And you know what I love about you? You're just very real, right? Um, you've worked through all the rejection, you worked through all the scenes, and you've really taken your business to a level that I'm sure you didn't even see it coming because it was just growing and growing, but I did on the outside. Oh,
I
no, what
still do.
stands out?
I just keep my head down and work.
Well, I know that for a fact. But what stands out for me most about your journey is just that your results. It's your consistency you always have, your standards and your disciplines. You've always kept yourself in check, I would say, right? When someone asks me about you, and they do, like, hey, who's this? I'm like, yep, someone who knows the business. You're lucky to do a deal because she'll take you through it, right? But even through market changes, through technology changes, people that came and go, but the fundamentals for you always won. You're always like, you're always in that no, and you kept yourself there. And I think that's a lot of things people don't get to. And everybody who's listening today, if you take one thing from today, let it be this, success really isn't being built on hype. It's built on discipline standards, showing up when no one's watching. Again, Stephanie, I appreciate you being here, and thank you for listening. This is Conversation with Legends, and to me, you're a big legend in our industry, and we're lucky to have you. So cheers to your success, and wherever it takes you next.
Thank you.
Thank